Hello students, welcome to Legacy IAS Academy. In today's video, we are going to discuss about a dam versus dam. Basically, as a response to the Chinese largest dam that they are planning to construct on the Brahmaputra river, India has come up with its own project over river Brahmaputra that is referred as the Upper Siang project. So, how these projects in Arunachal Pradesh can take on China's water bomb or Chinese water threat, let us try to examine in more detail. So first of all, to give you the context of this particular topic, what we are seeing in the region of Brahmaputra is a signal of a new era that is marked by the water geopolitics along the volatile border that India shares with China. India has the second longest land border with China after Bangladesh, and that is why it is gearing up to build a dam that it refers as the Upper Siang Dam, which is going to be the largest hydropower dam in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Overall, the dam will also be able to mitigate the potential water crisis that can result either due to the sudden discharge of water of river Brahmaputra by Chinese dam, or due to, also we can say, flood-like situation due to the heavy monsoon rainfall. Now, in this context also we have to understand that neither India or nor China are party or signatories to the UN International Water Course Convention. UN Water Course Convention, International Water Course Convention largely allows the countries that shares a water body, and it regulates how these resources will be managed and shared. However, India and China have their own bilateral mechanism as far as the hydro data is concerned, or sharing of the hydro related data is concerned about. So that is overall the context. Now, if we talk about the Upper Siang project that the India has proposed in the Brahmaputra, over the Brahmaputra river in Arunachal Pradesh, it is going to be 11,000 megawatt of hydropower project on the Siang River. Now, if you try to understand, Brahmaputra has different names in different regions. For example, in Tibet, where it originates from, it is called as Yarlung Zangbo or Yarlung Zangbo. In the Arunachal Pradesh, when the river enters, it is referred as the Siang River. Then it flows into the Assam, where it is known as the popular name of Brahmaputra, and then it enters into the Bangladesh, where it is popularly referred as Jamuna. So the Siang River is nothing but the Brahmaputra River actually. So in 2017, government actually changed its plan. Earlier plan was to construct two different hydropower projects, one with a 5500 megawatt of capacity and other with 3750 megawatt of capacity. However, government changed its decision and then decided that rather than two separate projects, it will build a single multi-purpose project of higher capacity, that is of 11 gigawatt. Now, the entire project is going to be commissioned and set up by a government of India's company called as NHPC, National Hydroelectric Power Corporation, and the project would entail the construction of the talk about the height of the dam wall. It is going to be 465 meter high, the largest in the subcontinent, Indian subcontinent we are talking about, that comprises of countries such as Pakistan, Bangladesh, then we have Sri Lanka, then we have Myanmar and all. So once it's completed, it is going to be the largest dam in the subcontinent. Now we talk about the Siang River. As we have discussed, that river flows by the name of Yarlung Zangbo in Brahmaputra, and when the pre-feasibility survey of this region was concerned, initially government came up with three different regions. One, the possibility was to construct a dam in the Yugeng region of Arunachal Pradesh. This is where a river is entering the Arunachal. Second was slightly to the downward region, Dime, and third was the Parong. So now there is a understanding among the expert that the best possible site for the development of dam is Parong. So this 11,000 megawatt of Upper Siang project has been finalized and it will be constructed in the Parong region. Now incidentally, this region is also witnessing a lot of protest against this particular dam by the indigenous tribes of Arunachal Pradesh, because they fear that once dam construction is approved, once dam construction begin, it will cause a displacement of a lot of the villagers who live around this particular area. So domestic problem also India is facing as far as this dam is concerned. Now this dam India has proposed as a counter to the Chinese project, that is the construction of Medog County Dam that China has planned just at the bend where river Brahmaputra enters India. If you look at the map here, this is the Yarlung Zangbo, originating from the Tibet nearby the Mount Kailash, more precisely from the Chema Yungdung or Ansi glacier, that is where the river originates from. Then it flows in almost a straight line from west to east, Then near the bend of Himalayas, it takes a U-turn and then enters the Arunachal Pradesh. So just where the river is bending and entering Arunachal, as you can see this place, this is where China has proposed to construct the largest dam in the entire world. Coincidentally, even now, the largest dam in the entire world is situated in China. It is the Three Gorge Dam that has been developed over the river Yangtze. So this is going to surpass that dam's capacity as well. Even now, they have even we can say changed the capacity of this dam, and now they are saying that this dam is going to be 90 gigawatt hydroelectricity capacity, hydroelectric potential dam. So the super dam's installed capacity is almost 3 times that of the largest hydropower station on the planet that we have discussed, Three Gorge Dam. And China is planning to divert the water to water scarce northern region from this area of China. Now, officials stated that the Upper Siang project will act as a reservoir to counter the effects of potentially reduced flow. So, suppose that if China start to divert the water, then in that case, the water stored in the Upper Siang reservoir can be freed up and can then supply water to the fertile plains of Assam and as well as to the lower riparian states of Bangladesh, where Brahmaputra is nothing short of a lifeline for the people. So that is how the project takes its significance. Now again, if you look at the map here, this is the Medog Dam, and in relation to that, if you look, this is the region that I told you is where India is going to construct the Upper Siang Dam. So both dams are very close to each other. This is the India-China border. This is the Arunachal Pradesh. So one is slightly to the north and one is slightly to the south of the border. So that is how the project becomes very, very important here. Now, the concern that has been raised by the experts about both of this project is that in the future it has the potential to become a major flashpoint between India and China, and this especially in the context of the strained relations both countries had since a long time period, especially after the 1962 war, and even in the recent times since 2020. India and China have clashed at the border in the Aksai Chin region, also along the Bhutan tri-junction. So that also has put a lot of we can say concern among the mind of experts. And this is not going to be the first case in the entire world. Before also many countries have continuously fought and struggled for having access to the water of a certain river. Like if talk about India and Pakistan, in this river is a point of contention or river of contention. Similarly, Ethiopia has constructed a grand dam on the Nile River that has been objected by Egypt, which is which consider Nile as a lifeline of the country. So similar kind of issues we can see cropping up in the future as well. Now, if you talk about the India's response by constructing Upper Siang Dam as a response of the Medog County Dam, so obviously many experts have flagged it because they say that it is nothing sort of adding fuel to the fire. But the problem is that as long as China keeps on damming the rivers over which it has control over, as China is the upper riparian region for many of the rivers, whether it is the river of the Indus system or whether it is the river of the Brahmaputra system and all that. So obviously other countries, the lower riparian countries, does not have any choice, but they have to come up with such kind of decision, and the addition of Upper Siang project and the plan of that project with the government of India is kind of, we can consider it is nothing but a kind of strong response that the government is trying to, strong signal, a strong message the government is trying to deliver here from a lower riparian countries. And in this context, the very well-known Australian think tank Lowy Institute has said that the control over rivers that originate in the Tibetan Plateau is the largest, we can say highest plateau in the entire Indian subcontinent and also in the Asia, and there it has a huge amount of glaciers that give rise to multiple rivers, and China has a de facto control over this. So due to this, it basically gives China what it refers as a chokehold over the India's economy, because in the entire Assam plain, if you talk about, as well as the hydroelectric generation potential you talk about, there is a strong value there as far from the Brahmaputra river. Now, if we talk about the term chokehold, first of all, as we know that in the China, the river Brahmaputra is referred as Yarlung Zangbo, which means the purifier, and many times Chinese have also referred this river as a river gone rogue. Now, why they refer it as river gone rogue? Because most of the Chinese river, they are flowing in a straight line from west to east, But Brahmaputra is the only river that takes a U-turn and then enters into India, thus cutting off the water supply that China could have enjoyed if the river continued to flow in the eastern direction where most of Chinese population are settled. To give you an idea, it is believed that about 2/3 of Chinese population are living in the coastal areas of China, otherwise other places are kind of uninhabitable in nature. So in this context, the Beijing decision to choose this strategic location for the dam, which is, as we have talked about in the map, is very close, in the close proximity to India's border, has prompted concerns in New Delhi. And obviously, the experts argue that it is obvious that China will have the card to use the dam as a strategic factor in its relationship with India to manipulate the water flows, and both India as well as Bangladesh, because these are the countries receiving water from the river, have raised the concern that there is a potential of China using the river water as a weapon to come to certain sort of agreement which will favor it in the future. And this example of this we already have seen in the past. For example, in 2017, when India and China had a strained relationship, there were flashpoints along the line of actual control. In that year, Beijing had temporarily stopped sharing of any hydrological data from the Brahmaputra river. That means India had no clear idea about the capacity or the volume of water flowing in the Brahmaputra, and India could not prepare well, and that is the year when Assam has seen a devastating flood due to sudden water flow in the Brahmaputra river that has displaced more than 100,000, 200,000 people, and also led to loss of life of about 30 to 40 people. So such kind of catastrophe we have seen in the past, and similar kind of catastrophe, but even to a gigantic scale, we might see unfolding in the future if both countries cannot come to the agreement that how they will share the information and data related to that. So this was the example of the weaponization of the river water that we have seen. Now, it is not only about the weaponization of river water due to the geopolitical choice of China. The problem also rises due to the region where the dams are being constructed, because the regions, whether it is the Medog Dam or whether it is the Upper Siang Dam, both lies in a seismic active zone where you have a large number of earthquake that has taken place in the past and definitely is going to take place in the future as well. So the terrain is very fragile in nature, and when you are damming the river, it is fraught with several dangers. For example, if a large magnitude of earthquake strike this area, it can cause or result in the failure of dam, that means the break in the dam, and the sudden release of such huge amount of water. As we have discussed, the Medog Dam is going to be a $137 billion US dollar project, and it will store a huge volume of water. That sudden discharge of water will cause a flood of unsurmountable, or we can say unimaginable nature, that can cause a very large loss of life, human casualty in its wake. So that is where also the concern lies, and this is not devoid of fact. If you look at the research that has been conducted in this area, experts believe that about 15% of the great earthquakes, if we talk about in the world, great earthquakes means we know that the earthquake is measured, the magnitude is measured on a scale called as Richter scale, which measures the value between 1 to 10. So earthquake having value more than 8 on the Richter scale is referred as great earthquake. So 15% of global great earthquake in the 20th century we talk about has occurred in the Himalayas. That tells you how dangerous this seismic fault line lies here. And the reason is very simple, because you know that Indian plate is still continuously pushing against the Eurasian plate in the north, and Himalayas and Tibet lies in between these, and that is why you have a lot of fault lines, you have a lot of main thrust fault that you will find in this area, and these you can see in the recent years, the major earthquake that we have witnessed, and you can understand this is the region where the river Brahmaputra is flowing through, and then it is like this. So due to this, the construction of dam can also invite threats from the earthquake. Now, what has been the India's response after China went up and announced the Medog County Dam construction? So first of all, it is not a sudden decision. The Medog County Dam has been explained or has been proposed in the Chinese 14th five-year plan itself, that spans over the 2021 to 2025. So in this particular five-year plan, the planning for such a dam was going on for decades, and it was in the December 2024 that finally China has approved it and it has given the clearance to construct the dam. Now, after this, New Delhi has clearly stated that it has established user rights to the water of the river, both traditionally if you talk about as far as the international law, and has consistently expressed the concern to the Chinese side over mega projects on river in their territory. And also India has all the time has communicated clearly to the Chinese counterparts that China should ensure that the interest of the downstream rivers of downstream states of the river Brahmaputra, not only India but also Bangladesh, should not be harmed by activities in the upstream areas. And also India will continue to monitor and take necessary measure to protect our interest. That is the statement given by the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson Randhir Jaiswal from India. So this is how we can understand, and that is how the Upper Siang project is also can be considered as a response. Now obviously India and China has been engaged in tug of war, whether it is about the geopolitics, whether it is about the economic might, whether it is about the sharing of river water, or whether it is about the border stress, border tensions, if talk about. Now recently both countries have decided to again bring the stability and create a situation of peace in the border areas, and that is why LAC agreement has come into picture. But despite that, the countries are not looking both countries do not look at each other with eye to eye. So apart from India and China, the other country that we are forgetting here about is the Bangladesh, which experts believe is going to be the worst affected, and millions of peoples of Bangladesh will be affected if China indeed goes ahead and overall block the flow of river, followed by India, which will block in the Upper Siang project. And the importance of the river Brahmaputra, we can understand how important and significant it is for Bangladesh. If we try to understand, we have the Meghalaya plateau here, and the Brahmaputra river flows to the west of Meghalaya plateau, somewhere near the place called as you have Dhubri in the Assam region, and then it takes a 90-degree turn, enters into Bangladesh by the name of river Jamuna, where it meets the river Padma, which is river Ganga coming from the west, and then you have the Barak river coming from the east, and then it forms also the largest delta of the world, Sundarban Delta. Now if you look at the Jamuna, it then further distributes into several distributaries, and these rivers play a very important role because that is where majority of the fertile plain lies and majority of the agricultural product of Bangladesh comes from. So area wise it does not cover a lot of area, only 8% of area of Brahmaputra basin is falling in the Bangladesh, but only this 8% of area is responsible for providing 65% of the country's water requirement, either for drinking purposes or for the irrigation purposes, and that is why Bangladesh is going to be adversely impacted most significantly, and that is why we have referred to it as a lifeline of Bangladesh. Now the question comes that what is going to be way ahead in the future? Now experts argue that even if India and Bangladesh join forces together and try to contract and try to put pressure on the China, it might not yield any result, because from the historical examples we have seen that China is not a country that is receptive to any kind of external pressure, external challenges. It does not matter whether the pressure is coming from one country, two country, or 10 countries. So just because India and Bangladesh do not like it and they want to exert pressure, it is highly unlikely that Chinese moves would be undeterred. It will not be sufficient to deter Beijing's action. Meanwhile, the threat facing communities on the front lines of these water tension is only going to grow, because these are the communities who are living along the river who are going to face a problem in case something adverse happens, something bad happens in the along the project or along the river. So that is all about this particular video. I hope you got the gist of both Medog County Dam proposed by China and Upper Siang project proposed by India, and why we should be concerned about both of these projects in the seismically active Himalayan region. If you like the video, please hit the like button, share it with your fellow aspirants, as well as subscribe to our channel for more such content. Thank you very much.